So thank you, David. Most people think that risks are uncertain future events, but you say there's other types of risks as well. Can you tell me a little bit more about what they are?
Yes, I'm concerned that we're missing the vast majority of uncertainties that matter that could affect our projects or businesses or personal lives actually, because we have this limited view that a risk is an uncertain future event, and we usually think of bad events that if it occurs could affect our project objectives, and we usually think of time and cost. So immediately we're limiting it to bad things that affect our budget or schedule. And of course it could be opportunities, and it could be much wider than just budget or schedule. But I think there's, in addition to those, the opportunity piece and affecting other objectives, there's a lot wider types of uncertainty that matter that we ought to be considering. If we look at the APM body of knowledge definition of risk, it says that risk is an uncertain event or condition that, if it occurs, has an effect on one or more project objectives. And in the PMBOK guide, it says it's an uncertain event or set of circumstances that, if it occurs, has positive or negative effect on achievement of objectives. So what does it mean by condition or set of circumstances? That's obviously something separate from event. So clearly there are uncertain future events that, if they occur, could affect achievement of objectives, and that's been our focus. But I think there are three other types of uncertainties that matter, which are not uncertain future events. So if we talk about uncertain future events first, they're things like, you know, a key supplier might go out of business, or one of my key members of staff might leave in the middle of the project. These are things that might or might not happen. We can attach a probability to it happening, and if it does happen, there's a potential impact. And we have traditional risk management to deal with that. But there are these three other types of uncertainty that matters.
So can you tell me a little bit more about these three different types of uncertainty that matter to my project?
Right, okay, so the first is to do with things that we definitely know will happen, but where the outcome is uncertain. So an uncertain future event, it may or may not happen, but if it does happen, it definitely affects us. Here we've got something which we know will definitely happen, but the uncertainty is in what the result will be. So the uncertainty is on the other half. One is it going to happen? And if it happens, it affects us. The other is, it's definitely going to happen, but how will it affect us? So we call this variability. And the standard example would be things in our project which we know we're going to do, but the outcome could be within a range. So, for example, simple things like productivity level. We have a planned productivity level that we expect. It could be worse or it could be better. Commodity prices could go up or could go down. Exchange rates could change in our favour or could be less favourable. Subcontractors could deliver late or they could deliver early. So you've got variability. We know we're definitely going to be buying some raw materials. The actual commodity price, we're not quite sure what it's going to be. We're definitely going to do a trial. The trial, we plan for it to be 10 days, but we know it could be 9, 8, 7, 12, 14, 16, 20. And so there's a range. The uncertainty is not in, are we going to do the trial? The uncertainty is, what's the duration going to be? And so these are a different type of uncertainty. In fact, the probability is 100%. We're definitely doing a trial. We're definitely digging a hole. What are we going to find? Will there be, service pipes down there or buried treasure, or will it just be what we expect? So you've got variability in something that we plan to do. And so that type of risk, these all have technical names. So for an uncertain future event, we call it stochastic risk. For these kind of variability risks, we call it aleatoric risk, because the Latin word alea means a dice. You throw the dice, you know that it's going to land somewhere, you just don't know if the number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to dig a hole, we know that we'll find something, we're not quite sure what it will be, it could be this, this, this or this. So that's the variability type of uncertainty, aleatoric.
And what should your response be in that situation? How should you best manage that first type of non-event risk?
Well, we do actually have a standard technique for doing this. So the idea is that you know you're going to run a trial, let's say. The first thing is you scope the bounds of the uncertainty in the outcomes. so that we know when we throw the dice it's between 1 and 6, it's not going to be 0 or 20. So we've got some boundaries to this. When we're running the trial, we know it can't possibly be less than 1 week because there's a certain amount of work to do, and we won't allow it to be more than 4 weeks because after that time we'll cancel the trial and do something else. So we bound the uncertainty with a minimum, most likely, and a maximum, usually. So a 3-point estimate, now that tells you where we're going in terms of the response to it. We can then put those 3-point estimates into some kind of simulation model, maybe use Monte Carlo simulation to work out the effect of the uncertainty, the variability on our project outcomes, whether it be time or budget or something else. So we use standard quantitative risk analysis techniques for assessing the impact of variability on our overall project.
Thank you for that. So let's move on to the second type of non-event risk. What's that, David?
Well, let's have another technical term. We've got stochastic, which are uncertain future events. We've got aleatoric, which is variability. The next is called epistemic. Now, the Greek word episteme means knowledge. So epistemic uncertainty is where I don't know something, or I lack experience, or I lack competence or the ability about some aspect of my project. And the normal word we would use for this would be ambiguity. So again, it's something which has 100% probability. I know something is going to happen, but I know also that I don't have full understanding or full experience of it. So we're going to use a new technique, that's for certain. Will it be introduced smoothly and my engineers pick it up easily? Or will there be a big learning curve? Or will we make mistakes as we go through? There's all sorts of uncertainties that arise because of the ambiguity associated with adopting a new technique. We're going to launch a new product and we have a big marketing campaign around that. The response of the competition is completely unknown. They know what they're going to do, but we don't. Regulation might change in our area. We know that regulation changes from time to time, but if we don't understand how it will change, the ambiguity is an uncertainty that matters.
So, David, with ambiguity, exactly what are the tips for managing that then?
Well, if it arises from our lack of experience or lack of knowledge or lack of understanding, then we can gain that understanding or experience. We could use prototyping, we could use incremental development, we could use an agile or lean or adaptive approach in our project, where we try something first and see how it goes, and then we use that to inform the next step. We can have that kind of exploration. We can also buy in expertise. So if the ambiguity arises from our lack of knowledge or lack of competence, then we might subcontract that part of the project or just hire in some experts just for that particular part, which removes the ambiguity because they know what they're talking about, they understand this particular area. So again, it's quite easy to deal with if you recognise it as a type of risk. And as with all risks, the idea is to be proactive. You see it coming in advance and you deal with it before it arrives. Very often in our projects, there are these areas of ambiguity, but we just kind of shrug our shoulders and say, well, you know, we'll deal with it when we get there, instead of dealing with it proactively and reducing the uncertainty.
Thank you. So we've now covered 2 of the 3 non-event risk types. Tell me what the third and last one is.
Okay, so we've got stochastic, which is the uncertain future event. We've got aleatoric, which is variability in planned tasks. We've got ambiguity, epistemic uncertainty, which arises from lack of knowledge or experience. The last one, the technical word, is ontological. Now, ontology is the science of origins, or where things come from. And ontology is saying, or ontological uncertainty, is saying that we are uncertain about where things come from. And these are risks that we've talked about in another interview, which are risks which are emergent. They come at us completely unexpected because we didn't know about their potential source of origin, the ontology of this risk. So we call them emergent risks, and we might call them black swans, which we've talked about separately. So the idea is you've got emergent risks, ontological risks, which are not uncertain future events. They might or might not happen. They come at you fully formed. They're not variability in something that you plan to do, like a trial or digging a hole. They're not lack of experience. They're something which just appear fully formed in front of you, affecting your project. And as we've said elsewhere, these sort of unpredictable, unknowable unknowns, we need to deal with these by having built-in flexibility in our processes and our people, and built-in resilience into our projects and our organisation. And that's the way to deal with ontological uncertainty.
Fascinating. Thank you very much, David.
It's a pleasure. And we're missing so much. Of course, it just teaches us that risk management is really the most important thing we can be doing, as you know.
Thank you very much.